Welcome, Christin, to the Root of Our Health. I am super excited to have you on. Can't wait.
I can't thank you enough, Elizabeth. It is an honor and pleasure, and thank you so much for your work.
Great. Thank you. Well, I like to start this episode or these episodes with a rapid fire question. So these are 5 questions for my audience just to get to know you a little bit better. How does that sound?
Bring it.
Awesome. Awesome. So the first one is, where did you grow up?
I grew up in a little town outside of New Haven, Connecticut called Brantford.
Nice. And where do you live now?
I live in Southwest Florida for 21 years.
Oh, nice. Beautiful. And who are your 2 top mentors?
Oh my goodness. My husband for sure, David. And honestly, my stepdaughter, Megan Michelle.
Wow. That's cool. I love that. I haven't heard family members in that answer. That is very good.
Pivotal on my journey. Pivotal.
Oh, nice. And what are you most passionate about?
I am most passionate about helping people connect to themselves, to getting to know and love themselves, and knowing that all the answers that they're looking for already are inside of them.
Yes. Yes. Love it. And last, but certainly not least, what is your superpower?
Oh, my superpower is connectivity. And whether that's connecting someone to self or connecting someone to someone else, I love seeing the pieces of the puzzle come together to create more energy and opportunity.
That's beautiful. Love it. So let's kind of get a little bit, dig in a little bit more about you. So tell us about your beginning, like the beginning of your life, and what do you want us to know more about you and your story?
Thank you for that. The beginning of my life, I grew up a very middle class, blessed person with a set of circumstances that were both positive and negative. And really my journey as an adult and as an executive and one who's passionate about health and well-being does root cause into my childhood. And so some of the messaging that I like to spend time on now is helping people realize that we are not our past, right? Today is all that we have, and really owning our journey from the beginning and being okay with it and healing from what maybe is uncomfortable is vital to our health and well-being.
Beautiful, beautiful. So because I love that. I know that we all have a choice, right? We all have a choice in our lives. It's whether our past dictates on how we move forward. And there's something that I kind of reminded me. You have a choice, like I said. So there's one person who goes through, or two people that go through the same past, right? The same outcome, or the same past, excuse me. One person takes that, say, for example, 2 brothers grow up in an alcoholic family, right? One brother takes that and he becomes the alcoholic again, because that's all he knows. The other brother, same family, same circumstances, says, you know what? I am not going to do that. I see how it affected me and my life and my family's life. I am not going to touch any alcohol at all. So you have that choice, and it's within us that we are able to control our outcomes of not only having our past dictate our future. So I love that. I definitely love that.
Well, and I'd love to react to that, because that's the perfect example of, the beginnings and who we are as adults, and looking at obstacles as with curiosity and wonder, and as opportunities to experience what I don't want, right? And be grateful for those experiences and learning to release them. And what was interesting about my journey was that I thought that I had addressed and had overcome or whatnot, some challenges. And what I found out later in life when my health started to fail was that I actually had just done a really good job of distracting and disassociating from. So I love to share that with your audience, who is, an audience I'm very attracted to, as successful go-getting women who we tend to muscle our way through experiences with will and grit and hard work and stamina, as did I. But it was really finding that I was not properly healed and accepting and releasing. So I hope that that helps inspire folks to maybe take a pause and revisit and release and heal.
Wow. Because I'm saying wow because it's not only speaking to my audience, but it's speaking 100% to me.
Mm.
I was going through the same thing. So I was anorexic way back in the, in my teens, never really got help for it. Right. But there was always something to distract me. There was always something there. And I realized all of this only 2 years ago when it came in the form of orthorexia. So I'm not sure if you know. So it's kind of like it's the opposite of, it's still in the same body image issue and controlling as like anorexia, but it's because I'm healthy. It's the unhealthy of being healthy. It's controlling. So I basically was controlling everything that I was eating. I can only eat what I make everything, and looking down on other people. So I knew this. And when my eyes opened to that, I realized I never got that help that I needed. I was always going through my life being distracted on other things to distract me from what I needed help. And that is, again, I don't know about you, but that is where I think mental health comes into, the therapy, the understanding that we need to get this out. And so, yeah, I would actually like to understand more about how you would help yourself through those situations. How did you help yourself through those situations?
Sure. And I thank you for sharing your story. Mm-hmm. And the way that I'm helping myself and hopefully helping others is by owning my story. And just like you're sharing yours and owning yours, I think as a society, we had gotten into this groove of everyone has to be the same and everyone has to be perfect. And, isn't, if you're not perfect, you're, not cool, or I don't know. I don't even know what that was. And, now I look back and I'm like, wow, I own the fact that I've had ups and downs. I own the fact that I am not perfect, right? And I try my best. And when I fail, I forgive myself. And it's in the imperfection, just like I said before, it's in the lessons that we truly grow. So the number one way I've gone to help myself is to accept who I am, change the things I don't like, do the work that's necessary, do the healing work, doing the self-love work, because I was the last person that I would love. I loved everybody else a whole lot more than I loved me, and releasing that shame or that guilt, to be able to live, an authentic, real life in real time. So by first owning my own journey and then second, sharing it, I don't want to share it in a way that is projecting or judging other people on their path. I simply share it quietly and lovingly. If somebody's interested in hearing it, or if it helps someone, that's wonderful. But being accepted by others for my path is not what I'm seeking. Yeah. I don't know if that speaks to you or makes sense, but that's how I've mostly helped myself.
Yes, it's more or less you're going along your journey, right? You're going along your health journey. And again, if you wanted to speak about it, somebody might resonate with it. But otherwise, this is your health journey. And we all have to be compassionate. And according to, there's other people in the world that are going through so many different situations. And we can't fathom what that feels like because we're not in their shoes, but we could help to understand, what that feels like. Maybe asking questions. That is why I love what I do. And I'm sure that's why you love what you do, is because we ask the questions. We ask, how are you feeling today? They probably haven't gotten that question asked them ever. And it's that opening up that I think that we can get into their soul a little bit more and be a little bit more compassionate, be, understanding
And
of
to be able
others.
to do that, we have to be whole.
Right.
Right. We have to be well, we have to be centered, we have to be present, so that when we are connecting compassionately with others, we're doing it from that place of wholeness, authentically. So I always love starting with self,
Yeah.
right? And then being able to support one another from that place of wholeness. And you mentioned before in your journey that need to control.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my own need to control to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up blowing out my digestive tract because of my constant fight or flight. And my autoimmune system was just distraught. And I love your work to talk about the root of your health, because no one was able to help me identify my root. I finally figured it out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm destroying my body with my need to control.
Yeah.
So when we're connecting with other who's different, or we're perceiving ourselves to be different, lots of us get freaked out because we're used to sameness.
Yeah.
And I think really what I'm enjoying right now is the opportunity to respect and enjoy and be curious about different without the need to control it or for sameness. And that's just a whole new lens for me. And it's challenging at times, but I love the opportunity to be able to celebrate. If we were all the same, how boring this would be.
I know. Yes. And we gotta stop that. We gotta stop being one-sided.
And just being open and asking those questions and listening with empathy. And then it's not even that we have the answers, right? Sometimes people just need to be heard, and, supporting them as we can, but also we might not have the answers, just like what you mentioned with all that's going on right now. It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Especially for those of us who are super open and compassionate and empathetic. It could be a lot right now and really affect our health.
Yes. Yes. And we have to, it's kind of like understanding that, being mindful of that. So you mentioned being empathetic. So people who have that empathetic nature, it's emotionally exhausting. And I only, I don't personally have that huge empathetic nature, so I don't feel it, but I know that other people have that aura of, taking their emotions and putting it on other people, and it's exhausting. So having that mind, being mindful of it though, and kind of saying, okay, I need to step back. I need to get back to myself so I can fill my cup, right? We need to fill our cup in order to help others.
I literally just recorded, I do a weekly YouTube video, and this was my topic.
Nice.
So of course you're talking about it. It is so important, where we all have empathy, right? Whether we're really, really aware of it or not is the question. Are we really in touch with it? And for those folks who just go into a room and absorb all of the energy of others, that's really hard to navigate and really hard to be in an experience. So when we work on our self-love and our self-care, how are we still being open to others, but at the same time taking care of self? So I mentioned today that, and this triggered for me the last election, not this past one, but the one before, as things were leading up and I was hearing all of the energy around the election. I was in a bad way. I was in a very bad way. And finally I looked at my husband and I said, honey, I can't have this playing in my living room. I can't have this playing while I'm getting ready for work. I have to set a boundary. I want to educate myself. I want to consume, and I want to feel all the emotions that come with it. But I'm talking 20 minutes. And then I'm going to spend the rest of the time that I'm awake today, being present, being with self, loving, so protecting yourself and setting a boundary when supporting others or absorbing for the empath is vital, especially right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I can go on a whole other tangent, but we won't. Just because I'm all about those boundaries. I don't watch the news. I stay off of social media, especially around certain times. And then, and I will say though, there are times and I catch myself. I don't know if anybody else, like you or anybody else does that's listening. You see, a post and all of a sudden you're looking at those comments and oh my gosh, it just draws you in and you're like, yes, no, yes, no. But I caught and because it just recently happened, I caught myself like, what am I doing? Get off, go to work, do something productive, do something positive, go for a walk. Because that is what we are doing. We're getting all of this negative energy in us and we're depleting ourselves. So I'm glad that you're talking about this, your own, you're going out there and you're educating about this, because this is definitely, especially now, one thing that we need is to get back to our roots, right? Get back to ourselves, get back to who we are, and understand that we have that choice. And I go back to what I said before. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, and thank you. And I think really the mindset, because that happened to me 2 days ago where someone posted something and there was a back and forth going on with a couple different folks. And whereas before I would have probably been up all night, and I would have been firing away too. Now I just try to look at that with curiosity and say, I wonder where that person's coming from. And I respect the fact, even though I grossly disagree with that perspective, I'm also not here to judge that. That's not for me to take on. And that was a major shift. And I've spent a number of years and I've written a couple of chapters in my book about this exact thing, where I used to believe that I had all these really wonderful ideas and ways to live, and that everyone should also do the same. And now that cracks me up, right? And because for every single human that's breathing, they have a different perspective in a different way, because we all come to the same truth from a different lens based on, our lives, and trying to control everyone's perspective so that I felt safe was exhausting and made me ill. And now when I'm in space with someone I'm not in alignment with, yes, sometimes I remove myself, right? But I also try to stay in it and not react to it and get out of my headspace and be more aware that, I don't want them telling me what to do. So who am I to judge my truth on them? And I'll tell you what, Elizabeth, that's been so freeing for me, because now when I experience something that's different for me, there's a little bit of a space where I can contemplate, I wonder, is there anything from that I could take and absorb and bring into my thought process? Or I wonder why that just crossed.
Yeah.
It's just it gets more contemplative now than emergent, like I'm not safe.
That's wonderful. We have to all take a chapter in that book. And speaking of books, let's talk about it. Let's talk about your book, Phoenix Rising. Can you tell us more about it and why? Why did you write this book?
That's the $1 million question. Oh, gosh. So I found myself in the healthcare system as the executive overseeing health and well-being, yet I found myself on a health journey that wasn't able to be solved for within traditional medicine. So it became very frustrating, because I was finding answers of the mind-body connection and how what is the definition of health? What is the definition of well-being? Right? Why are we waiting until people get sick? And you know this better than anybody. Mm-hmm. Why are we waiting for people to get sick before we support them? So my definition of health and wellness became very different from traditional medicine. And I wanted so badly to help and support traditional medicine in its transformation to address root cause and prevent before sickness. But, it's going to take quite some time to be able to do that. So one blessing from COVID was the opportunity to accept an early retirement plan. I'm nowhere near retirement. But it did facilitate an opportunity to exit healthcare after 10 years. So I found myself with an interim as I was exiting, and I was still, on payroll. And my husband's like, what are you going to go do? I'm like, I have no idea. But right now I'm going to just sit and I'm going to journal my journey, because I just need to download it and release it. Right. And so I won't bore you with all the interesting circumstances that came forth to all of a sudden I find myself in an entrepreneurial program out of Georgetown University that was virtual. It was a 5-month program for writing a book. So I started just typing away at different stories that bubbled up, and I had no idea what the book would be about or if I would publish. It was really just this active download a couple months into COVID. And after about 4 of the 5 months, and I still wasn't really sure what this book was about, I was able to look back at what I had written, and I saw a very beautiful theme. And that was one of ups and downs, or trials and tribulations, or high points and low points that were pops or ahas to help me understand I'm in charge of me. I'm in charge of my own health. My mind and my body connection are foundational to that. I'm not here to judge others. I'm not here to project on others. And hence the book became a book. I didn't know if I would publish, because there are personal tales in there that, it's not about airing laundry or vomiting your truth all over people with a megaphone, but by simply being honest and to self. I wrote the book for me. And when I decided to publish, it was if it lands in somebody else's hands and it can inspire them to reconnect with self and own who they are, then great. And if not, I just now have a document I could always refer to for my own health and my own well-being.
Beautiful. And so Phoenix Rising, I love that title. How did you decide that title?
I love that. So when it was early in the stages of being in this course, I had 3 different phone conversations with 3 different people that week. They were not interconnected people, and they're people that I'm friends with, but not like someone I would talk to every day.
Right.
So when they're like, what are you up to? You're leaving the hospital. What are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't really know. But right now I think I'm writing this book. Oh, well, what's it about? I'm like, yet to be determined, well, what are you going to call it? And so I was explaining kind of what I was writing, and literally all 3 people said, oh, her Phoenix Rising.
Wow.
So the first time someone said that, I was like, that's cute. That's catchy. And the second time I got chills, because I was like, someone else just said that. By the 3rd person that week. And the course wanted you to have a working title. You could always change it. But for you to start getting comfortable with the fact you're writing a book, you had to call it something. Mm-hmm. So I typed in, we're going to call this thing Her Phoenix Rising for now, because 3 random people all said the same thing when I kind of described what it was about. And I'll tell you what, the synchronicities just kept coming. I searched the domain, it was available. You can't make this stuff up. Right. And so it was very clear to me. And now I'm constantly getting reminders and, signs and all kinds of interesting things, because it's really is about, getting back to Mother Earth, getting back to the ashes, getting back to core and self, and then rediscovering, right, without the constraints from all the drama, all the history, and just being present and rising.
That's beautiful. It gave me chills. Seriously, that just like that story and the truth behind all of that is it just gave me chills. So I cannot wait to read it. Where can people find this book before I get to the next question?
Sure. It's on Amazon. Also, it's on my website, which is simply my name, ChristinCollins.com. And it's available for Kindle as well.
Beautiful. Be sure to pick it up. Now, my audience is women over 40. And if you can, what is one thing that they can do today, like a tip or a takeaway, if you will, about getting on the right track to better their health? What would that be?
Thank you for that question. Now I have chills all over my body. Again, knowing your demographic, knowing, because it's the same as mine and it's you and I, we are those overachievers who are just out there rocking it, crushing it, getting things done and saving the world and helping everyone else. The number one thing that we can all do for ourselves, and you've already referenced it, is to carve out, to time block, to commit to have an accountability partner to help you take time for self. Mm-hmm. We are not showing up wholly because we're so busy giving. We are not fully charged. And I felt guilty, right? And if someone's like, hey, can you help me? I would immediately blow off the gym or immediately skip grocery shopping or immediately stay up all night to help them. And while there are moments of emergency, we can't live our life that way. So really the number one way for folks to start working on their own health and well-being is to understand, I've got to carve out time for me. I've got to make decisions that support me taking care of me.
Yeah.
And that can look very simple for, I'm going to lay in bed for the first 5 minutes of every day and I'm just going to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to just breathe. And that's, my form of meditation. Or I'm going to shut down my electronic devices at 8 p.m. because I'm pretty sure nothing that can't wait till 6 a.m. is going to happen. Right. And if you work and maybe you are responsible for emergency, have an accountability partner to say, you take Monday, I'll take Tuesday.
Right.
Right. Same with partners or spouses, right? Being able to say, you know what, tonight I'm going to cook, but then can you clean up the dishes? That actually happened last night. And my husband was like, gladly.
Nice.
Right.
Very good.
Finding that little niche for you to start on your self-care and setting that boundary. And then it's amazing how we start showing up, maybe not as angry or frustrated or exhausted, because I would get mad and be like, oh my gosh, everyone's taking so much from me. Well, hi, whose fault is that?
Exactly.
And you don't have to start with like going to a wellness retreat for a month in the mountains, though that would be awesome.
Yes, it would. Sign me up.
5 minutes a morning, just before your piggy toes hit the ground. Just lay some mornings. That's my self-care and my meditation. I just lay in bed and I'm realizing I'm waking up and I just breathe. And then I'm like, okay, I'm centered and I'm ready to start this day.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And if I may, I want to add on to that. So the reason why I want to add on is because it actually happened to me this morning. So I've been going 100 miles an hour lately. Things are picking up, things are rolling. I have a lot to do. And this morning, I decided not to do a full-blown workout, right? So I was just doing, a little abs, stuff like that. Cause I'm like, I need to get into work right now. And all of a sudden, so I put my Spotify on and it's like all my liked songs, right? All of a sudden I heard the song. I don't know if you heard of Romanza. So it's Andrea Bocelli. It's an Italian, singer. And that's the first song that comes on. Now, obviously it's not a workout song. So what did I do? I sat there and really listened to the song. I didn't move. I stared and I just listened to the song and I'm like, I'm here. I'm present. And that right there, I started tearing up because I was like, this never happened before. I was just in that moment. So I just had to tell everybody that, because, it's important. It's definitely important. We think that we need to do everything all the time. And it's just those 3 minutes to really sit there and really be present that gets you through that day. So
thank you for bringing that into our shared space, and the resounding, escalation for the chords hitting right? The sound therapy going on.
Yeah.
Right. And I was driving into my office this morning and I had some OAR cranking and I was really present at the stoplight.
Yeah.
And I was getting chills all over my body from the purity of this guy's voice and the talent of the keys being played on the piano. And I'm like, I'm so lit up.
Yeah.
I'm so inspired. But often I'm so busy doing 7 other things at the same time that I'm missing.
Yeah.
So yeah, being present, music speaks to our soul. And that's a beautiful reflection on your morning. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I just had to share it because it was like top of mind. It was right there and you brought it out of me, which is why you're so good at what you do. So, Christin, I just want to acknowledge you. Being in this conversation with you, you light it up, right? You light up this conversation, you light up me, and I'm sure everybody else that comes in contact with you. You have that ability. And you mentioned this in the beginning, but you didn't take your past and could have it control your future. You took control of your past. And with that being said, now your cup is filled and now you're able to fill other cups.
I so appreciate, I have chills all over my body and I will receive that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, please do.
That's new to me. So thank you for that. And what I'd like to add, for those listening, because I'm 100% sure anyone attracted to your work and my work do the same.
Yeah.
Right. And what's interesting as I reflected is that I thought I was doing, I think I really was doing all that before. Right. And when I first started becoming aware that the same old wasn't working anymore and it was showing up in my body like big time. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? And then to take the deep dive to find the thread that led them all together to find root.
Yeah.
Right. It was very long and very tiring, but very powerful. And now I was always authentically wanting to support others. I really, really was. But in reflection, I realized the only way I could love me was when I was being in service to others. So just chew on that for, I don't know, a week. When we're serving others and we think we're doing it from a place of authenticity and wholeness, right? It wasn't that I was trying for them to like me. It wasn't so that people in the community would like me. It was so that I would like me. And I didn't like me just breathing.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So now when I connect, I am very present and I need nothing from the exchange. Nice. And so it does light me up when others can have their pop or have their aha from being in community together. But it is a new space for me. And it was hard, especially now, I think, with all the trauma that's going on around the globe. Right. So I'm also not rushing to connect.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in the quiet. I'm sitting in the discomfort. I'm sitting in the moment. And when I don't know how to move forward, I don't know how to be of service. I don't know how to support. I simply do nothing and allow it to come, in real time when it's supposed to. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. But you don't force it. You don't force anything to come. You just let it be. Let the universe, let whoever, let it come to fruition by itself. I think we all need to learn that because, again, personally, that control mechanism, that controlness, we all want, and especially nowadays, we want everything now, right? We want everything. If it's not going our way right now, we're all ticked off. But what we need to understand is exactly that. We have to sit in that discomfort. We have to sit in understanding this isn't the way it's supposed to be, that we think it is. So there's something out there. Yeah, go ahead.
And what's happened now, again, I think I'm going to just freeze to death from talking to you because I keep getting these awesome chills. Now what I find happening, because I'm not trying my little darndest to control everything, right? And I'm just sitting and I'm wondering and I'm now receiving.
Yeah.
And the things that are crossing and the opportunities that are arising and the people that I'm meeting are mind blowing and beyond my wildest dreams, and there's many days where the day is ending and I'm reflecting and I'm like, I cannot believe I got to have this conversation with her today.
Yeah.
I cannot believe, and it's interesting because, as I've already mentioned, when I left healthcare, it was very scary because, you can't just go, I couldn't, at least in Southwest Florida, go find a job like the one I just had very easily. They're few and far between, especially in the middle of a global pandemic. And yet here I am a year later, and I look back and my work now and my roles now and my relationships now are so satiating and so inspiring. I mean, I could just stay up for a year and work and never sleep because there's so many fun things I want to do.
Right.
And I'm no longer willing my way because now I'm attracting things that I am no longer limiting myself because I was trying to control. So if folks listening can remember a time when they were pleasantly surprised by a shift that happened that originally was really scary. Like, I can't let go of that. I'm scared of the unknown. And you look back, you're like, oh, thank God we got that divorce. Because now I'm married to this guy who's, really the person I'm supposed to be with. And so if we can stop controlling and relax and be and understand that the things that we perceive as negative are opportunities to learn and to release, for me, at least, now I'm attracting things that I've never, ever thought in a million years to even wish for.
Wow. Beautiful. Just take a moment, because that right there is just beautiful. Yeah. Well, one last question. Actually, before I get to this last question, where can people, I know you mentioned it earlier, but to kind of reiterate, where can people find you, pick up this book? How do you want to be reached?
Oh, I love that. So I think the most central location would be on my website, which is my name, ChristinCollins.com. From there, there's a lot of different ways to connect. And I love sharing space with others, right? I love hearing feedback. I love hearing journeys. I love being of service in that capacity. So there's a weekly email I send out that just has some little sassy, thought-provoking things. I do have a YouTube. I do hold space on Instagram on a platform called Raw Real Talks, which is an international community. Nice. So lots of ways, but you can originate probably best on my website.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I'll link everything up in the show notes. And we are also connected as well. So, but yes, all of that information will be in the show notes for my audience, just to click and go straight to it. So excited.
Well, thank you for that. And I look forward to getting to know your audience better.
Great, great. So last question I have is, can you leave us with either a favorite quote or any words of inspiration? Would love it.
Oh, yes, I would love to. And it's funny because this will not be a quote from a famous person, but this will be a quote from one of my mentors.
Nice.
So I've found on my journey what my life's purpose is. And my life's purpose is to inspire awakening. And I didn't really know what that meant when I first identified my purpose statement, but now I feel I'm growing into that. So when I was vetting, what does it mean to inspire awakening? What is my company? What is my book? What is my life's work? My husband very brilliantly said this in the car, and it's now my favorite quote. So I will leave you with this. Okay. You can change people's lives, including your own, through love and kindness. And that was from David Collins.
Wow. I got the chills now. That is beautiful. Thank you to your husband for bringing that up and for, yes, I love it. If you can send me that quote, I'll also put it in the show notes so people can take it with them as well.
I would be happy
So,
to. I
yeah.
would be happy. It was a very beautiful reflection from someone who's been walking very close to me for 21 years.
Yeah, of
And yet
course.
it was so simple, but it was the perfect summation of what I believe. And I appreciated his reflection.
Beautiful. Well, that is just a wonderful way to end this episode. Again, Christin, I cannot thank you enough for being on here, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your story, and for sharing who you are to my audience. And I can't wait to get to know you even better. And yes, so with that being said, I want to tell my audience, and I say this each and every week, I wanted my audience to know that you are worth it.